So interestingly, I've been getting a few calls from ex-military personnel from Western nations. Now, typically, whenever I've spoken to someone from the military, they're always very proud. They're nationalists and they're proud of their country. But what's going on currently around the world, particularly the recent developments, and as we speak, really heartbreaks for what's happening with people from Palestine, the civilians. We're talking about civilian stuff here, right? Yes, of course, it's deeply sad what happened with those Israeli people inside of Israel. That aside, the problem here, right, with the Western people and the military comes the last, right? When you talk about people from the military, they're hardcore nationalists. Forget about any second passport or getting citizenship in any other foreign country. They always think 10 times. But now, particularly, I'm seeing this, they're losing confidence with the way some of the Western governments are blindly mad following each other. Exceedingly, a lot of people have now started to realize, now whether it's right or wrong is not the point. The larger point is, yes, you want to care for your country, but if the country is not in your control and if you know it's all headed in the wrong direction, you got to be prepared at least so you can be safe. You can at least protect yourself and your family and your future, right? And sometimes you don't connect with the ideology. It's very important to understand what a country is. It's not a piece of land. A piece of land can be intruded, it can be captured, it can be ruled by external parties. The main thing over here when you talk about a country is the people and the rulers, right? The constitution. If your constitution functions correctly, you're proud of your country. If the people who get chosen because of that constitution and who are elected, now in an ideal world, you choose the right people, they run the country, you're happy and everything goes well. But when everything starts backfiring, you no longer believe in the country, you want access to outside. The whole point of this video today is one is sympathizing with those Palestinian people, what has happened to them since the last more than 50 years, right? What's happening to them today. Some of the statements, when you hear them, ethnic cleansing of 2.2 million people, I mean, that's absolute madness to even hear something like that. That's one thing. The second big thing is, how do you prepare? Now, this more than ever is the perfect time to get your second passports. Hopefully you have one already. Get them ready. Make your plan. The way in which the world is headed, it's exceedingly getting scarier and scarier. One wrong move, something triggers, and that is the perfect opportunity some of the bad actors are looking for. One foolish person making one big foolish decision in the heat of the moment can absolutely destroy a lot of things, right? And my point over here is not to fearmonger anything. Hopefully nothing happens and hopefully everything stays on track and we're all safe in our own countries. But this more than ever is the right time to take your second passports out and be ready. You want to have a plan B home, right? If something drastically goes wrong in your home country, let's say you're from a Western country or any other country, right? And if your country then participates in all this madness, the consequences, there's some extreme drastic consequences at home. You want to be prepared to have a low-key, low-profile place. And it is significantly important to have multiple plan Bs. You can't rely on one country. What if you would have used the Jew law of return and let's say gotten an Israeli passport today? That wouldn't have been an ideal plan B, right? So people talk about different countries, but at whatever point in time, I had a client, who was particularly very interested in Bosnia and the citizenship in that part of the world. But you never know, right? It seems safe and it seems calm, but there's always a storm behind the calm. I'm not talking about specifically Bosnia. That's just the country that he's talking about. When you pick a country, you want to pick up multiple countries, the smaller countries. So not all are going to be threatened at the same time. What particularly is very important to realize is that, and apart from Bosnia, Armenia, for instance, is an everyday talking point, right? I got so many clients who are like, hey, let's talk about Armenia. Can we get that one and stuff like that? Again, there's significant amount of geopolitical risk behind, let's say, something like an Armenia, Georgia, and other countries in that part of the world. If you ask me, one of the big things that I always talk about is Serbia is pretty safe as compared to some of the other countries. If you're looking for a plan B and a decent passport, a decent citizenship, the 3-year rule in Serbia is still magical. It's really beautiful for a lot of people. If you missed that, you can always check my video on Serbia. I've made a very detailed video on it. But apart from that, you want drastically diverse countries. You want to pick one country in Latin America. So if something drastically goes wrong, let's say between two countries, let's say it's about the Middle East and it's about the West, then if you are in the Latin Americas, you have nothing to do with those two countries, so you're safer. At the same time, there could be crime in your Latin American country. So let's say, there's some drastic situation that suddenly happens. Let's say your country turns into a Colombia. Again, Colombia is a great country, nothing against it. The crime goes up and down, but some people prefer it, some people don't. But if situation happens or changes, then you just don't want to rely on your Latin country. You want to have something geopolitically diverse, maybe an Asian residency, maybe a Gulf residency, and your ideologies and which side you belong to. Let's say you support the Palestinian civilian people, right? You're on their side, you sympathize with them. So all these things changes where you eventually live. Maybe you would want to live in a Western country, then you want that European access. Serbia is that crossroads, so it's always interesting. But as geopolitically diverse you get, the safer it is for you and your family, right? You have multiple options. You can pick and choose. You can hop around. And the other big thing is not just one spot. Okay, this is where I would live for the rest of my life. That's not how it works. What if that place goes down? Something significantly bad happens. And this more than ever, and I normally don't use the word escape, but now I feel one has to have the ability of escaping multiple spots, right? It's not about nomadism or having a nomad life. It could really mean, and more than ever now, I think the way the world is progressing, I feel that escape route, multiple escape points should be set up. You never know when you would need to escape from point A to point B to maybe even point C. This is from the whole geopolitical risk standpoint, but even otherwise from a legal standpoint, that's going to help you. Let's say you're finding a partner, let's say a girl, maybe you're hopping around, maybe you're traveling, maybe you find someone really beautiful in a low profile country. So the more options you add, the more residencies you start, and you work towards those eventual citizenship benefits on multiple levels in your life. You have more options. Let's say you're planning a baby in future, your child is going to inherit all those options in the very terrible, and hopefully it's not terrible in future, but just the direction in which it's headed. If so there's something really terrible for your children in future, at least you would have been the smart guy, the man who had this in mind, who predicted this, who was early in the game, picked up the right interest at the right time, pursued the right options, and given your child, given your family that ultimate benefit. I get a lot of clients, especially clients from Asian countries, and their wives are like, hey, why are you doing this? You're not doing anything wrong. Why do you want plan B? Why do you want multiple options? This is exactly, go show her this video. This is exactly why you want multiple options. Maybe it's a fight with her. Maybe you get divorced from her. Maybe she comes and screws you over, right? You want some protection. I'm not saying that should happen. I'm just saying for some people it does. So you got to be prepared, right? It just prepares you, blanket prepares you for any kind of situation in your life. That is where I think planning now, starting now. I know it's difficult getting up from your comfort zone. You think, I don't need it. Think about it again, and yeah, if you are interested in anything, you can always reach out. We can discuss what's the best and get you started. I hope you like this video, and if you did, give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe, and catch you in the next one.